Do you ever have a friend who, when you go out for a walk, is always a little distracted and seems to be looking everywhere except at you? Yeah, that's me. And I'm sorry, but birds. They're everywhere. Did you know that even if hummingbird chicks look a little big for their nests, the spider webs holding them together actually make them flexible enough to grow to fit their size? Or that dilating pupils in a parrot help indicate how they're feeling at that very moment? And even though I'm focused on looking for birds, I'm still on that walk with you. I might be distracted, but I'm still able to mostly hold a conversation, and I can manage not to walk into you or the street or a telephone pole. That's because I'm drawing on a stream of information about the place and space I'm inhabiting when I'm on that walk, and we all do it, all the time. We receive a constant influx of data about the world. I just happen to be really interested in birds. If we were out with my friend Nick, he wouldn't be able to go 10 steps without pointing out a squirrel. My friend Heather, on the other hand, is an artist, and she's constantly distracted by a pretty flower to paint or the interesting angle of light and shadow on a building. I'm not sure what it is you're interested in, besides my sparkling conversation and random bird facts, but I'm sure there's something you're constantly noticing just a little more than other people too. Our context influences us and can show us what matters more to us than other people. And some elements of the spaces and places around us will influence how we write and how our written communication is perceived by readers. Today, we're diving into the complex role context plays in our writing and how to use that understanding to write even better. Hi, I'm Dr. Emily Zarka, and this is Study Hall Rhetoric and Composition. The famous saying from British poet John Donne that no man is an island illustrates something important. Whether you're you or me or the great author and absolute queen Mary Shelley, we're all connected to each other. But we're also all situated or located in a time and location that inevitably influences our communication with others. Today, we're going to focus more on where we're situated. And later, we'll continue our discussion by examining time or when we're situated. Both when and where are key aspects of context, or the factors that influence how our writing is formed, shared, and received. We can split this where part of context further into two helpful categories, space and place. When we're talking about space here, we'll be referring to physical properties, the location geographically or on the World Wide Web, and things like how bright, decorated, or large a space might be. And when we talk about place, we're trying to get at how humans are defining and interacting with a space. There are a ton of places and spaces that are going to impact even a very basic writing project's journey through the world, not just the physical room where the writing happens. Let's look at how someone's context is actually a complex array of different spaces and places, and how changing our context can change our writing. Ayn is writing for a popular fashion publication online called We Are Beauty as a part-time job while raising 2 children at home. The space part of her context is her apartment in a crowded city high-rise, which often is full of the items from her family, not just the tools she needs for her work. This is also the place where her children play and her family life exists. There's a lot going on, which sometimes brings thoughts of to-do lists and easy-to-wash kids' fashions to mind. But she often daydreams about how her work would go if she was located in a space like a quiet office of a high-end fashion magazine. The space of her imagined office is light, open, and houses a big closet of inspiring outfits borrowed from the best designers. And it's the place her fellow workers come together to get things done. Her writing is also located on the internet, where the kind of readers she gets are often different from a high-end print magazine with a hefty cover price. The work she does is impacted by many space-based concerns. Like photos and text are displayed differently in print versus online, which changes the amounts and types of photos and the style and paragraph size she aims for in the text. The places themselves are also used differently. We Are Beauty has a thriving comment section that's always in mind when she's writing. While glossy magazines may generate buzz, but there isn't a physical comment section in the print magazine. What's wild is that context refers to all these spaces and places together, but individual contexts can also be named. The apartment, the website, the wider world of social media posts, and even all the individual rooms and benches and coffee shops where an article is read. That's a lot of influences on a simple story written at Ayn's kitchen table. Place and space can influence our writing without us being conscious of it. like how Ein's surroundings inspired different types of stories. But when it comes to mass media, there's often someone really thinking context through. There are people who have thought a lot about how a piece of communication is going to reach us and made intentional decisions that shape our experience. For instance, choices might have been made based on what is less expensive to produce, or a political or ideological choice. We'll dive more into how messages in media are shaped by context in another video. Learning about context isn't limited to wide-reaching media, though. Whether we're writing a letter for one person or a story for millions, understanding our places in spaces helps us choose how to deliver our messages and then mold the messages to fit that medium. Like it's valuable to know whether you'll have access to a functional projector when you're giving a presentation at a community meeting, which is a quality of the space. You also want to know whether people are expecting several presenters to share briefly, or if you're supposed to fill the entire hour, which is more of a place-based concern, since it's about how people are interacting and shaping the meeting. All contexts, whether they're space or place-related, are going to constrain or restrict our options in some ways, and allow other possibilities that are specific to that place or space. To dive into space, place, and constraints more, think of your email as a space and place. First, it's a physical, albeit two-dimensional, space where we send and receive messages, with particular browser icons, features, and color schemes. It's also a place because humans designed this product and all users have an influence on how it'll be used over time. So to understand the context of email, we'll start with the ways we can use the space of email and consider what it allows us to do and what it doesn't allow us to do. For instance, email is more or less instant. And sending it too fast can have consequences, like if we were rage typing a message that we didn't really think was the right draft to send. Unlike speech or snail mail, email is constrained by the feature that you can make a decision to send in instantly, and then can't take it back. If we're not thinking about this constraint as we use email, we can send a message that does us or someone else harm. Others have created an option to schedule when an email gets sent. If we're writing emails at 2 a.m., we may schedule them to arrive when more folks would be awake and willing to open up our message. Other features may not be so noticeable. Having a built-in spell checking program, like many computers or email programs have, allows us to get our spelling close enough and let the autocorrect get us the rest of the way there. All these physical features come together and shape how we interact with email, influencing us to write in different ways than we would if the features available were different. If email functioned differently, like if we had a mandatory waiting period before a message was delivered when we could take it back, something that used to exist in most email clients in one form or another, but isn't very common anymore, there might be fewer angry emails and less back and forth about them. Of course, it's equally likely that some other form of communication would step in for faster response times, because changing the space of one medium can ripple out and change the space of others too. For example, say it's standard that you can wait 30 minutes after sending an email to take it back before the recipient reads it. What happens if your boss needs the information they emailed you about ASAP? Will 30 minutes become ASAP, or is it more likely that phone calls will become ASAP? The context in which we communicate is rarely truly isolated. As for the place of email, think of place as how those physical features of the programs have shaped when people expect email versus other forms of communication, and how others expect it to be used. For instance, most of us would choose an email for an official business-related message over a text message. It's part of what's expected for those two places. Part of it was space-based when the distinction began, with bigger screens available on computers than on phones. But part of it was cultural. Yes, text messages are now an option. But if all our colleagues are still using email, we probably didn't make waves by sending all our messages as text. These days, computers and phones have big screens and full keyboards, making it possible to send similar messages by text or over email. But early on in text messages, we just had inconvenient, tiny buttons on a phone. So the physical characteristics of the space created constraints and led us to develop a cultural expectation for shortness and abbreviations. Even with bigger phones and easier typing options, these cultural and historical contexts have continued to influence how we choose where to write and what to write to each other. From the people who use what looks like a complete other language, to those who favor fast abbreviations, and the sticklers who believe in full sentences and periods. The truth is that these are just some of the contextual elements that impact email. We can keep unearthing more, but we probably won't find every factor related to space and place when it comes to writing. There are so many potential influences, and sometimes the impact of a cultural expectation and the impact of a physical location will mesh in ways that aren't easy to see or explain. But the more conventions, constraints, and possibilities we think through, the more clearly we can make choices about where to communicate and how to communicate in those spaces and places. It also helps us anticipate some of the reception we'll get from audiences, since the people who receive our work are both individuals with their own perspectives and members of cultural groups that have expectations of certain spaces and places. Audience and context are deeply connected, and understanding both of them well can impact our ability to achieve goals like creating action, changing attitudes, or prompting reflection. Sometimes it feels like the where of a piece of writing is not clear, especially for writing that could continue to circulate after we first send it out to a friend, boss, or teacher. But when we anticipate where our writing will be produced, shared, and received, we can account for those contexts as we write. We don't have to use every place and space exactly the way that other people have used them, but we should make deliberate choices that help us achieve our purpose or speak more clearly to our audience. It's another version of that idea that it's important to know the rules before you can break them. Knowing the typical ways to communicate in a given context is like knowing the conversation that is going on somewhere before we walk into the room. We might still shake things up or change the subject, but we can make our own contribution better if we have some idea of what's typical for that space and place. That information helps us write in ways that achieve our goals better and better as we practice evaluating context over time. Thanks for watching Study Hall Rhetoric and Composition, which is part of the Study Hall Project, a partnership between ASU and Crash Course. If you liked this video and want to keep learning with us, be sure to subscribe. You can learn more about Study Hall and the videos produced by Crash Course and ASU in the links in the description. See you next time.